All right, guys, are we ready to get started tonight? We are going to,
Yes.
for those like to tune in and follow us, we talk about a lot of different things that we sometimes we get into deep theological things. Sometimes we get into things about common everyday things. Tonight we're going to talk about um, our marriages, our love for our spouses and things like that. With I guess Valentine's Day is coming up on Friday. Hopefully it doesn't catch anybody by surprise. And you guys make much out of that day?
I don't.
Okay.
Not
You
anymore.
you just bypass it altogether?
No, I mean, we'll probably go out to dinner or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't make a big deal out of it. You can't not notice it. I was surprised yesterday in our worship service. Our pastor made a very passing remark about the Super Bowl. Didn't elaborate or anything, just mentioned it. And when the service was over, the lady behind us that we have befriended, she said, "I didn't know it was Super Bowl Sunday." And I thought, how do you? I understand people don't watch football, but how do you not know it was Super Bowl Sunday? It's on every program on TV. It's everywhere. How do you not know it was Super Bowl Sunday? So, but anyhow, we're going to talk about our weddings, and you each sent me a picture or more. So, who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
How many minutes do I have?
10, 12 minutes. We're down to 4, so we got time.
Okay. You gotta bring a picture up. There you go. Okay. This is a love story that only could be orchestrated by God, I believe. The lady on the left is my wife, Jackie. Jackie was raised in an alcoholic home. Her dad was a functional alcoholic, provided for the family, but just a mean, cantankerous person. Got saved 2 months before he died. I, about 20 miles away, was being raised in the home of an alcoholic father who never thought I was his son, so I got kind of held at a distance. And we came together through one of her best friends and one of my best friends. One of my best friends, his name was Gary, and her best friend was called Janet. They were dating. I had never, and I had never, I think I'd met Janet one time before, but Gary invited me to go to the Sunny Club with him one night. The Sunny Club was a teenage nightclub in Camp Hill. It's actually an old Gettysburg Road. If you know where the Sun Lake Diner is, it's right in that area. I don't think I think it's the opposite side of the street, but it's in that area right up near what's the road that goes from across from Simpson Ferry, turns to Shealy, Bethany Drive, and Old Gettysburg Road in that area there. Anyway, Jackie actually had a date that night, but she decided she didn't want to go out with this guy and called him up and said, "Hey, look, I'm not feeling well. I'm just going to stay home." Okay. So she then immediately calls her friend Janet, who's my friend's girlfriend, and they decide, "Hey, we're going to go to the Sunny Club." So Gary invites me to go with him. I go there. I had never seen Jackie before. But I got introduced to her. It was literal. I do believe in love at first sight. That's really what it was. So I didn't dance, but I stood around, was sociable, and she'd talk to me between dances, that kind of thing. I got bold enough to ask her if I could walk her to a car afterwards, and got her telephone number and got permission to call. So started calling immediately, and it became a thing. And about 2 years later, I guess about 27 months later, we got married. That was the picture that Barry had up there. Um, Jackie's family wasn't paying for a wedding. They offered to give us a reception at the West Fairview American Legion, but we're neither one of us were saved, and both of us said no, we don't want a beer party for a reception, so we didn't have a reception. Our wedding took literally maybe 10 minutes, um, and we left the wedding, went down to my weddings in Duncannon. I lived in Duncannon, went to my house in Duncannon. We changed clothes and headed off on our honeymoon at Ocean City, Jersey. So that's the backstory of how we came to know each other and got married. I think both of us would agree that I don't I can't say I don't know that I loved Jackie when we got married. I thought I did, and I think she'd say the same thing. She didn't really love me. She thought she did. We had no idea what it was. We had You have to understand, neither one of our parents had a good marriage. We had never seen it modeled. I didn't even know things like you're supposed to ask uh, the girl's father if you can give her a diamond and be engaged to her. I didn't know there was such a practice. No one ever told me anything like that. So, and I knew nothing about getting engaged, that kind of thing. But actually, here's how it went. If you remember, it used to be a restaurant on the Carlisle Pike called, I think it was Bonanza. It was the forerunner of Haas's. And so one night we went there to eat, and we're done eating, got out and got in the car. And I said, "Do you ever think about getting married?" She says, "Yeah, I did." I took that as a yes. We're getting married, by the next week we're out shopping for a diamond.
Hey, you didn't get your knee dirty. That's good.
No, I didn't know I was supposed to, Barry. I knew nothing about that stuff. I really splurged. I got her a $250 diamond. So this is big stuff. It's all I could afford, and that was it. And the backdrop of that is kind of like the story of our marriage. When we got married, I think I don't know. I'm going to say I was making about 250 an hour, maybe $3 an hour, something like that. Um, when we had our first son, we were living out back at Duncannon. We had purchased 3/4 of an acre of ground, and we put a mobile home on that on a basement. This was in the Carter years, and our first mortgage was we borrowed $12,000, and our first mortgage was at 12%. So, and at that time, I wasn't making much money either. So 2 years later, Jackie's pregnant, and we're getting ready to welcome our first baby, and she's going to stay home because she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. Uh, I would say on paper we could not afford it. As I recall, my take-home pay at that time was $126 a week, and our mortgage payment was 110, something like that. So I guess we were within the guidelines of how much to spend on housing. And I tell young people today, I say, hey, we were so poor, we only had one car. And that kind of frames it where, hey, yeah, man, you were poor. But all of I think one of the things that I have come to appreciate most about Jackie is that she had never, ever put pressure on me to make more money than I could.
Mhm.
She never wanted for a bigger house, a bigger car, more clothes, anything like that. She was quite content to be a mom. Of course, then her second son came along, and so she was home with them the whole way through, I think, sixth grade for both of them, and then she started working part-time in a flower shop. But she always was a homebody. And the one thing I can always count on is no matter how bad things get, I know she has my back. I know she's going to be on my team. I also know that when I'm wrong, she'll tell me I'm wrong. And I've learned to listen to that. But over the years, today I would say, nah, I love her with all my heart. And when I teach on heaven, and sometimes people ask, "Hey, will we be married in heaven?" I said, "Well, I don't think so. I mean, Jesus said uh, in eternity we will neither marry nor be given in marriage." So now, when every time we teach that, the class, depending on, well, whatever size the class is, if there's couples in there, I'd say it's about 50-50. About 50% of the couples are glad they're going to be married in heaven. The other 50% are glad they're not going to be married in heaven. I mean, it's almost always that. Now, I don't take a survey, but I can just tell by the comments I get after class, there's about 50-50. So I am looking forward to spending eternity in there. And I think the right answer to that question is no, we won't be married in heaven, but we'll be even closer than we are now. And if you have a good marriage, it's hard to imagine being closer than you are now. But I really believe because the sin nature will be removed in both of us, I really believe it will be closer than ever. So I'm not concerned about that at all. But I like I can count on her, and I hope she can count on me. So you guys got any questions about that history?
What year were you married?
1971.
71. I was
This would be anniversary 54 this year.
I was either 8 or 9 years old, depending on.
Oh, you were 8 or 9 years old. Well, that's why we didn't invite you, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Jim showed his wedding picture there. Jim, I took the liberty of going on the internet and finding an updated picture of you guys.
I don't think you did.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what? You did get that. You did.
yeah. So that's where you are today. So
I went to the doctor's. Did I tell you the story? I went to the doctor's last Monday. I was having a problem with my back. I had a pain right in the center of my back. It was hurting the whole way through to my breastbone. So I went to OSS, the emergency care, and I thought, you know what? I can't reach back there and point exactly. So I'm going to draw him a diagram. No, better yet, I'm going to go on Bing and get an image of a man's back. So I got a picture of a man about like that guy you just showed up
okay.
here. His back is rippled with muscle. So I printed that out and I marked under exactly where the pain is and where it's radiating to. So the gal that was checking me in, taking down my vitals, and I said, well, I drew a diagram for you so you'll know where I'm hurting. I showed it to her, and she literally laughed out loud.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
So any other questions for Jim? Other than his workout routine?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Thank you, Jim. That was awesome.
Go ahead, Joe.
All right. Yeah, I can go next.
I got 3 pictures for Joe that I didn't have to get off the internet.
I'm actually curious to see which one you chose.
I'm gonna put all 3 up. How's
Oh
that?
no, I thought you were gonna pick one.
I want to see all of them.
Yeah, we'll do all of them.
Okay.
Let's see.
Why am I nervous about this?
I don't know. You can tell lies if Mercy's not home. You can tell it's lies.
Yeah, she's not around, so.
Go ahead.
Oh, one of them disappeared on me here.
Yes.
We'll do this. I got 2. I don't know what happened to the other one. I had them. How's this one? Explain this one.
You look like the Corleone kid.
Yeah, I was definitely Italian looking, wasn't I?
Yes.
And who's the guy with the hair?
Yeah, the guy with the hair. But
Is that's iced tea in your glass?
no, it's definitely it's probably champagne, but we
Okay.
probably we didn't even get a chance to eat a slice of our wedding cake. Things were so hectic that day. I could barely. It's like a big blur, And I remember one thing. I thought, this wedding ceremony, or I'm sorry, the reception. It's all about the bride, right? I was more concerned about making sure that Mercy had a good time. But here's another one. Yeah,
Too bad she didn't get a dress that fit.
yeah. It was a little bit big on her.
Yeah. Looks like it was made for the Jolly Green Giant.
Yeah.
And
But
that,
anyway, it was a beautiful day, that the wedding. And Mercy's a very interesting person. She has thoughts, ideas, and then she works very hard in making them reality. And I'm embarrassed to say that I did very little planning, or very little to plan for that day, but she did. She worked hard, and she did a beautiful job, with her wedding. I don't know. I guess I paid for what I could afford. And then our parents really helped us out. They were a blessing to us, so we were able to have a really nice wedding day. But about our wedding, actually our relationships beyond the wedding day, she's always been, and I'm not embarrassed to say, she's always been a little bit more mature than I have been. So when we met, um, she's 2 years older than I am, so I was about 27 when we met. So we were a little bit older than most people when they meet. So we're a little bit maybe more mature, but she was definitely the brains of our relationship in a lot of different ways. And she came from a very very poor background, and I came from like low to middle class. So my even the way that I looked at money and the way that I looked at things was a little bit different than her. She was always worried. She still to this day, her garage has a lot of canned foods and things of the sort on the shelves, and she still probably has in her mind that food's not always going to be there. And I never really had that issue. So there's a little bit of difference in the way how we view life in general. She always prepared, and she thinks ahead, and very concerned about things. And I'm a little bit more happy-go-lucky, kind of like, we'll figure it out, right? But there's been a lot of times that she has really helped me focus on things the way she'd be planning, organizing, talking about the future, and all the things that I really didn't care about. And as we grew in our relationship, um, I think she helped me mature a lot in a lot of different ways. So I don't want to say that she was my mom, but I have to give her a lot of credit. She did a good job with me because I had a lot to learn, especially when it comes to being a husband and a father. And she was always there, consistent and patient. So I give her a lot of respect for that. And I just in our relationship, I look to her. She is my best friend. I look to her as whenever there's a challenge in my life, or things that I feel I need encouragement or whatever it is, she's the first person I run to. She just has that loving and caring and patient way of dealing with things that I haven't seen a lot of people have. And one neat thing about her is that when I leave work at the end of the day and I drive home, I look forward to opening that door and seeing her there. She's that special to me. And just tonight, I came home and she was on the phone with one of her needy friends that calls her and keeps her on the phone for over an hour until you finally say, "Hey, I gotta go." Maybe sometimes 2 hours. And I felt, when I saw her on the phone, I just kind of felt like, like something was taken away from me because I didn't get a chance to greet her and do my happy dance, okay, kind of thing, because she was on the phone. And that's how much I look forward to coming home and spending time with her. And she's just special. She just has a lot of ways that she just invests in my life, and I invest in her life in different ways. And I just thank God for her. I don't know what my life would have been like without having her in my life, and I don't even care. I'm so glad. I'm so happy that I have her. And Jim, you were talking a little bit about heaven and what it's going to be like, as far as we're married here on earth and we won't be married in heaven and stuff. I just hope that I'm good spending eternity with her. I really am. I don't know if she's good with spending eternity with me, but I can honestly say that I wouldn't mind. I love her so much.
Amen.
She's a blessing to me.
so Joe, a question.
Yeah.
You knew that she was the right one for you. Did she know you were the right one for her at the same time?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We probably had a couple of dates until we realized that there was something there. And she had three jobs when I met her because she lived by with she had a roommate, and apartments, or just life in general in New Jersey, is very expensive. And so there it was her and her girlfriend. They're still very good friends to this day, but they needed multiple jobs just to make it through the month to month of rent and all the other things. So when we started getting serious, I said, Mercy, this is not working out. Every weekend you're working. You got two jobs on the weekend, and you got a full-time job during the week. And when do we get a chance to see each other? And she thought about it, and the following week says, "Hey, I just quit one of my jobs." I'm like, wow, I felt somewhat responsible. But then we had an opportunity to see each other more regularly on weekends. So it was kind of neat.
Joe, did you know the whole how to propose things and the things that I didn't know?
No, I fumbled through it. I mean, just like you, Jim, I knew that I needed to buy her a ring, and I needed to have a special occasion to propose to her. But she's way smarter than I am, so she knew exactly what was happening every step of the way. And she tried to act surprised when I proposed to her. I already knew that she knew. It was like I fumbled through the whole thing, Jim, quite frankly. But she still said yes, so that was good.
The wise woman.
She is, and I think I'm a much wiser and better man because of having her in my life.
Okay. Anything else for Joe?
How long you guys been married now?
I was afraid somebody would ask me that. 1990, so it would have been what, 35 years.
What's your anniversary? See if you know the quick.
That I know,
quick.
September 29th.
Oh, okay.
I will never forget it because I forgot it was.
Hmm.
Okay.
That was a huge mistake.
I'll bet it was.
Well, that's awesome, Joe. It's good to hear that. Gino, you want to go next? You want me to go next? What do you want to do?
I can go next.
All right, great.
Well, as I've said before, I'm Italian. I was born in Italy and came over, born in Italy, bred it in Germany, and buttered in Pittsburgh.
Buttered.
Well, that's putting it mildly. My teenage years, I grew up in what we call Little Italy over there. New Bloomfield, part of the section of Pittsburgh, is the Italian section, and I grew up right next to it. We had Larimer Avenue, which was Little Mafia Avenue, and well, I'll just say this: I almost got fully involved in it, but the only thing that kept me out of it is the Lord. And in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to be a policeman ever since Germany. And I think that's what kept me out of the mafia. I mean, I'm not proud of some of the things I did. I mean, I didn't kill nobody, anything like that. But I've done a lot of damage in that in my teen years. And anyways, I ended up getting married young to a high school girlfriend. We were both young, and that only lasted a while. I thought I'll go in the military, and that'll straighten me out and that'll make me a little more responsible. But the military wasn't good for the marriage, so one marriage down the drain. Come home from Germany, overseas, military, and was in the National Guards and Reserves in Oakdale, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, and that's where I met my second wife. I was acting sergeant, and she was a sergeant. I ended up being an instructor for the military police subjects and that. Anyways, make a long story short, after we dated a little bit and then we got married, and that marriage ended up brought us here to Harrisburg area, where I got back into the department that I was working for before service. But that ended up in my former wife committing suicide.
Mm.
And with a little girl at home, that thinking back, the only thing I can credit is God. God was with me. God was watching over me, and I've been saying this all my life, basically. growing up Catholic, I tried to be a good man and, abide by the 10 Commandments and that, because I didn't know anything else. That's what I knew about the Lord, about Jesus Christ and 10 Commandments, and be a good person, treat everybody good and all that stuff. But I still haven't found the proper scriptures, and then I got to do a lot of research. But the one part about God assigns a guardian angel to you when they know that you're going to be one of God's children in the future and accept salvation. Well, I wholeheartedly believe in that. And that's me. And the longer I think about it, and I can see instances where it was God that saved me. And it was God that put me in the position I'm in now. It's just God. God worked in my life, my guardian angels, my angels around me, and they carried me through thick and thin. Because some of the stuff, I shouldn't be here, to put it bluntly. I played with guns. I played with sawed-off shotguns, being a policeman in the military, being a policeman out here in the civilian world. I got into some iffy situations. And if the Lord wasn't really watching out for me and had guardian angels with me, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And, that I'm not boasting or anything. I just thank the Lord every single day. But after my wife committed suicide, this was in April 95, I thought, by that time I was a workaholic, because I was trying to please her and trying to put a good roof over her and my daughter, and have enough money to keep them satisfied, and for wanting for nothing. Basically, I became a workaholic. And I find out years later, my daughter used to call me the phantom dad. Thinking about a phantom dad, that sounds funny, but it hit home. It's like sticking a knife in you and turning it. And that's the last thing I wanted. I wanted to enjoy my family and that. I'm a family man. But when she took her life, that just threw me for a loop, period. And God and the Holy Spirit got a hold of me and brought me through it. And at that point, I wasn't worried about dating. I wasn't worried about other women or anything like that. I just wanted to take care of my daughter, my household, and get back to work. I mean, not as much. I gave up a lot of work hours and stuff. And finally, after 6-8 months, feeling pretty lonely, I thought, well, and my fellow officers, oh, you need to get back. You need to go out on a date or something. And they kept prodding me and forcing, and putting pressure on me. Hey, just go out on a date. You don't have to do anything. Go out and go out to a movie or something. I tried that a couple of times. It just wasn't for me. And I used to work the night shift at the Capitol, and we have a lunchroom and stuff. So a bunch of us would go in there. And the Patriot newspaper was always there. And back in 95 and 96, back in those days, they still had the personal ads in the Patriot News, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
And one of our officers, while we're sitting there just, shooting the breeze and eating our lunch and that, one of the officers started reading the personals, the male and females. The females are looking for this perfect guy and, somebody that doesn't exist. But just the descriptions and stuff, we were just laughing. And even some of the guys, they're looking for a woman that can hunt and fish and, this and that. So reading those things out loud, they really sound funny. So the one night I ended up there when I saw everybody went back to their posts and stuff, and I was reading there, and I picked up the paper and I was reading. I come across this one ad, and I'm reading it, and I thought, if I was to put an ad in the paper, that's something that I would write. I just want a friend, somebody to do something with, share a meal or go for a walk or something. And I wasn't interested in anything else. And I thought, boy, this woman here sounds pretty nice. I would write the ad, and it's similar to hers. So I thought, oh, sounds good. Anyways, I put the paper down, went about my business. Come 7 o'clock that morning, time to get off, I was putting my stuff away, and I ended up in the lunchroom. I look over to the table and the newspaper's still there. And I thought, I want to digest that ad a little more. So I got the paper and I brought it home. Anyway, make a long story short, after getting about 5-6 hours sleep, I got up and moving around and that, and I looked at the ad again, and I thought, and I don't know, just out of a clear blue sky, just something was telling me call. And I said, nah, I ain't calling. So I ended up arguing with myself. And after about 10 minutes, I picked up the phone and I called. And lo and behold, some woman answered. And I said, hey, are you the person that put this ad in the paper now? And anyways, yes, she introduced herself. Her name was Beth, and she is a RN assistant at Harrisburg Hospital. And she came out of an abusive marriage. And the nurses over there were prodding her to put an ad in, to go on dates and stuff. So we ended up talking on the phone for 4 hours. Made a coffee appointment for the next night. And here in Enola, there used to be Eaton Park by Summerdale Plaza. I don't know if you guys know it.
Yep.
But so we decided to meet the next night there, for coffee and talk some more. So we did. And 4 hours later, we were talking, and first thing out of both of our mouth in the phone conversation and when we met at the Eaton Park is, I don't ever want to get married again. Both of us. I said, I'm just looking for somebody to be friends with and do things with. And that's it. No marriage. And she was telling me about her abusive marriage. And I was telling her about mine, that this is my second marriage. My wife committed suicide a year ago. And then that's it. I don't want no parts of marriage. I don't want no woman's responsibility or nothing. So we agreed that, yeah, well, I guess that's, we sound perfect for each other. So that evening, after Eaton Park, I come home and I told my daughter, I said, I think I met your future mother-in-law or stepmother. And my daughter looks at me and goes, what? I said, just joking. And around this time, this was around April, the end of March, April of 96. And about that time, my father just passed away. He was in hospice. And then, and my mother wasn't in good shape. So she ended up in hospice, and both of them in Pittsburgh. In the meantime, Beth and I, we had really talked and what we wanted in a relationship, and that we just wanted to be honest and, no double talk or anything, because I was tired of that with my other marriage, my first marriage, and she was kind of hesitant and kind of reserved and had walls up because of her marriage. Her marriage was like 19 years. And my marriage was 13 and a half. But anyways, at the time I said, well, she had an apartment and she couldn't afford it. And she was having, she was really strapped financially. And I said, well, you're welcome to move in here. And I have a big house and that, you're welcome to move in here. And when I said that, a great big smile on her face. And then it turned to just a dumb look. And I said, what's the matter? And anyway, the bottom line was that she was seeing some other guy. And we were in my kitchen there. I said, oh, you're still seeing somebody? And I said, well, let me put it this way. If we're going to be more than just friends, and be honest and upfront with each other, I don't want to call you and you're out with somebody else and that. There's the door. If you really want to be with me and the situation's right, walk through my kitchen door here and I'll know that you made a decision. If not, get out.
Wow.
So I kicked her out. I kicked her out of my house. 2 days later, she can walk in through the door. And she surprised me. And I thought, okay, I guess you made a decision. I'm it. Yep. And we've been together ever since. And that was April 4th of 96.
Wow.
Right about then, about 2 weeks later, about 3 weeks later, we were both working nights. I come home that night shift. You know, back then thinking, well, it's my gut feeling. But now I definitely know that it was the Holy Spirit telling me, when you get off work, you need to go back. You need to go to Pittsburgh and go see your mother. So when we got home, I picked her up and we were coming home. I said, you know, I think God's telling me that I need to go to Pittsburgh. We need to go to Pittsburgh and go see my mother. And that's what we did. And we got to Pittsburgh. We spent time with my mother, and you know, she didn't look too good and all that, but she was still alert and stuff. And I walked out of the room because she wanted some water or something. Now, my mother is that typical little Italian woman, if you can picture that. I know you can, Joe. But she spoke broken English, very little English, and Beth definitely doesn't talk Italian. So I go out of the room to go get either water or something. And I come back, you know, and they're fine, and they look like they're communicating a little bit. Anyways, fast forward. Excuse me. We left, you know, and told my mother goodbye and all that, and it took us 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours to get back home here. And as soon as I opened the door, and that phone's ringing, and it's the hospice nurse there. My mother passed away. So, in looking back, that's definitely God. That was the Holy Spirit getting me off my butt and getting me to listen. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have been able to, I wouldn't have had a chance to tell my mother goodbye. Come to find out, there was another reason for that. A couple of days or after the funeral, Beth tells me, or about a week or a week and a half later, we had a funeral and stuff in Pittsburgh. On the way home, Beth proceeds to tell me, "You remember when you walked out of the room and to get her water and stuff?" Yeah. Well, something happened. And I thought, uh-oh, you know, well, what happened? Tell me. She goes, "When you walked out of the room, your mother looked at me square in the face, lifted her finger up, and said, 'You marry my Gino.'" So, and you know, what can I say to that? So after she told me that, she goes, "Well, I don't want to get married." And you said, "You don't want to get married." I said, "I'm going to listen to your mother. Your mother said that I'm going to marry you." And if that was a proposal on her part, I don't know. But we met end of March of 96, you know, middle and the end of 96, March of 96. And we were married officially May 31st of 96, 2 months later.
So
Wow.
she proposed and you said, "I do."
My mother proposed for the both of us.
Okay, right.
And if that's not a God thing, I don't know what is. And this is our wedding photo.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
Wow, that's
Very
a
good.
beautiful photo. Thank you for sharing that, Gina.
That's awesome.
that's a good story, Gino.
But anyway, it doesn't end there.
It's so
Now-
interesting how we all have different paths.
Yeah. Well, we were both adamant that we were never, ever, ever. I mean, the word ever came out of us. I don't know how many times.
Liar,
God
liar,
has a sense of
nuts
humor.
on
God makes you
fire.
eat those words.
You got your nose in a telephone wire.
Anyway, so now we were, you know, I had a house here. She moved in, and you know, we got all that. We're blending. I had a daughter, and she had 3 kids. So you know, the blended family. Her kids didn't all live here, but trying to put 2 families together and try to get along. And you know, her and I would say, love at first sight. I believe in that, and I really. I really thought I loved Beth, you know, from first day that we saw each other and sitting there. I've never talked to a woman for 4 straight hours. You know, that's just one of those things. But I can definitely say now she is my better half, and I love her to death. And there's no way that I would be without her.
Amen. Barry, you
And,
gotta top that one.
Yeah.
I
Anyways,
can't top that. That's awesome.
we went through our honeymoon phase and all that stuff, and then life settled in, and again, you know, a workaholic. I worked my full-time job, and I had 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and at the beginning I was still in the military. And it seemed like on weekends I was gone, there was no time for us. And that took an effect on both of us. And eventually 10 years into the marriage, and we just about broke up. And we talked, and then we got back together real quick. And I mean, we really talked. When we first got married, we both kind of we were religious, to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
But God was not first in our marriage. We were first. I was first and she was second, and vice versa. She was first and I was second. And that worked for a bunch of years, but then it all came to a head. So finally we broke up for a little bit, very short time. We got back together and we really sat down and we're honest with each other and say the problems we have, we come first. But there's another person that really comes first before anything else. And that's when we came to the conclusion that we took the word divorce and threw it out of our vocabulary. So our first decision that we made is we're going to be together through thick and thin. We're going to work things out. There's no such thing as divorce. The second major decision we made is God comes first. And that's where the triangle comes in. We put God first in everything, and then we're second and third. And that's the way it's been. And ever since we did that, and in the meantime, I was still Catholic. She's a born Christian. I mean, she gotten away from it. So we both got back to church. And I think a year later, after 97, no, in 2008 or 2009, I gave my life to the Lord. And that's when we really invited him in. And ever since then, it's been a bliss. We put the Lord first. He comes first no matter what. And it's the triangle is the best description I can give you. The closer I get to God, the closer we get. And that's the way we treat each other. That's the way we treat everybody else. Family, friends, respect is there. What you see is what you get. And I say it all the time. Financially, we're not rich. But take the money aspect out of it, I think Beth and I are the richest 2 people in the world. And we both love each other. We're both retired. And, when you're retired and you kind of have, you're stuck together, you feel like, I need a break or something. Beth and I, we can spend 24/7 together and not be bothered. And we enjoy each other's company, and she really supports me and vice versa. We do, we complement each other.
Amen.
And
it's a good. Hey, we got to let Barry in here.
yeah, I'm sorry. And last thing, this will be 29 years.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's pretty awesome.
Sorry, Barry.
Oh,
Good
glad to hear
talk, yes,
any,
Barry.
any questions for Gino? If not, you're going to be stuck with me. Well, I will start out by saying that I don't ever not remember not knowing Mary. Marysville was a small town. She had an older brother, and that was the same age as my older brother. And they weren't the best of friends, but they were friends. And always knew that she had a little sister that was in my youngest brother's grade, 2 years behind me. But
Hey,
that's
what's
all.
Sonny Bono doing in this picture?
What's that?
What's Sonny Bono doing in this picture?
Hey, you like that? Hey, but
I remember the look.
you remember that's the 70s, right?
Yep,
The peach ruffle shirt, the brown tux,
I forget that.
and the hair over the ears. Yeah. But I don't ever remember not knowing her, but I had a lot of friends that had girlfriends, but I guess I was a late bloomer. I really wasn't interested in girls until I was probably 15, almost 16 years old. I had friends who had boast about their girlfriends, and I said, why would you want one of those? They're high maintenance. I got other things. I'm playing football or baseball or whatever. I don't have time for that. So Mary was my first real girlfriend, and I remember that she decided to play a prank on us, and her friend came to steal my bicycle one day. My dad was a policeman, and he caught him. Put him in the back of the car and took him home. He was just having fun with them, but they were quite alarmed about the situation and realized that probably wasn't a good idea to steal a bike from a policeman's family. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So he took her home, and then they got in trouble for that. But I don't ever remember her not being around, other than I didn't, and understand what I'm saying. I knew she was a girl, but I didn't know she was a girl. All right, because I wasn't into that. Then at some point, probably 15, 16 years old, I finally got to the point where I thought, maybe I need a girlfriend. And I started looking around, and of course I had plenty of classmates that I guess I could have looked at, but okay. I was very shy, and I was painfully shy, so approaching a girl was just never something I would think of. But Mary and I, somehow we became friends, and I'm sure she should tell a story different than mine, but we just hit it off right away, and she was so easy to talk to, and she was a Christian and I was not. Shortly after that time, my dad died, and I'm not going to get into a lot of my testimony because our testimonies are on Men on Narrow Road, and somebody can look it up there. But I was going through a really difficult time when my dad died. I was 16 when he died. And, Mary was there, and she was, basically she was a friend that tried to help the best she could. But again, she was a Christian and I was not. And so that was a struggle. Of course, the Bible talks about being unequally yoked. She should not have been dating me, but she did anyhow. Jim, I don't know if you'll remember this. I think it's whether it's in our class, our school yearbook, or maybe it's in Mary's. One, they put sayings in there, predictions and things like that. They printed in there that Mary and Barry will be together forever.
Wow.
I don't remember it. I'd been praying for you had I known that.
Yeah. So, and I know that at first I was upset because forget any chance with any other girl once that's in print. You're done. All right. We just knew we were meant to be together. And then I'm like some of you have said, I don't ever remember getting down one knee and proposing. We just kind of, our relationship grew together. We both knew that, I guess someday, we should get married. And
you didn't propose either?
No.
Way to go, Barry.
We just said, well, there's a jewelry store down the street. Let's go pick out a ring. So she helped pick it out. So it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't, Jim, I did ask her father.
Oh man.
I knew enough to do that.
I didn't.
But that's after we had already decided we were going to do this. So now I better go ask her dad. Now I remember her dad. He was an awesome guy, and I said, "Can I marry your daughter?" And he says, "I've had her for 20 years. It's time for somebody else to have her."
Oh wow!
And I thought that went a lot smoother than I was dreaming. You're sweating. I was just, woo, that was easy.
Hey,
but
Barry,
we dated for about 5 years. And I know, because I was so full of myself whenever I was 17 years old, as a lot of young men are. We were at the carnival in Marysville, which came every year. And she was 15, I was 17. And we had just started dating. I didn't have a job. So when I say dating, we just hung out. All right. I asked her to marry me at the carnival.
Wow.
She was 15, I was 17. She says, no, that's stupid. We're too young. So I waited about 10 minutes. And I said, will you marry me? She says, No, this answer's still no. I said, in baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. Now, praise the Lord, she was patient. Yeah, did put up with some of my stupidness, but our relationship grew and grew, and God brought us together. I didn't know that then, but clearly I know it now. God was bringing us together, and when she was 20 and I was 22, we got married, and it was at a church with a minister. In fact, Jim was there. I still tell people Jim was at my wedding, but I wasn't even invited to his. But
We couldn't afford to have one more person there.
okay. Well, we had a little church wedding, and the reception was downstairs in the basement with cake and ice cream. That's all we had. So it was a Christian wedding, even though I was not a Christian. And I made it clear to my wife that I didn't want Christ anywhere in our marriage because I was still bitter from the death of my father. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on that. So we ended up moving to Arizona, and they call Phoenix the Valley of the Sun. And we were there less than a year, and through the prayers and ministry of a lot of people, we ended up in a church one day and surprised my wife that I was even willing to go check out a church, and we did. And it wasn't long after that I gave my life to Christ on June 4th, 1978. And I can truly say that our marriage was good before then. At least I thought so. But after that, it just took a whole nother level. Once we put Christ in the center, Gina, like you said, we put Christ in the center of our relationship. It just took a whole new meaning. And I just fell in love with the woman I thought I had love, but now I knew what real love was. Okay. So we got married in 1972. So it's 52 years now. And she's the perfect spouse for me. And, God knows these things. And I look back and say, he protected us from so many things and guided us. And in times, when you make decisions in life and you think, well, I made that decision, and you look back and say that was God's hand guiding us. But he brought us together. And then when the Lord called me into ministry, we prayed about it long and hard, because when you go into ministry, the spouse goes into ministry too. But she was on board on all this. And even though we had to travel across the country and ended up in Texas, and neither one of us wanted to be there. And then the whole time I was at seminary, she was the provider for the family. I mean, I had a little part-time job and make like $10 an hour or something, but I was going full-time student. So she was carrying the burden for everything. But she was a perfect wife to do that. Complain a little bit, but who doesn't when you have to go through these tough times? And I remember times when, the saying, we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. But I remember times we didn't have 1 penny. We thought peanut butter and jelly was a good meal. We're happy to have that. So we had some very lean days, but she was awesome and so supportive. And let's do this. God has a plan. And then even after we got into the ministry, she was a perfect pastor's wife. And a lot of people who have been down that road have no concept of what it is to be a pastor's wife, because they hear the good and the bad and the ugly comments and everything, especially in smaller churches where there are no secrets. I don't want to use the word gossip, but it's just common knowledge in small churches. Something happens, it gets around. And I was always careful not to share things with Mary about some of the stuff I dealt with in counseling and things like that. She always handled that so well. And then, of course, on Sunday, people would be talking about something and she would be clueless. But she liked it that way, and that kind of protected her because she had her responsibilities. But she always took care of us in the ministry, and I always told people that, I was nobody in the church. She was Miss Mary, and people would refer to me as Miss Mary's husband. So that was great that she had that kind of ministry, and especially in children, she just loved children's ministry, and She spent a lot of times when other people weren't willing with these kids and just loving them in the name of Jesus. And, from birth up to whatever age she could, she was wanted to pour Jesus into them. And she'd do, she'd work full time and then come home and just pour it all into these kids. We were blessed with 2 kids of our own, and now we have 6 grandkids. But still, she is the perfect mate. And I will never understand how God does that, how he puts us together like that. And if you would ask me back in my early days, did I pick her? Did she pick me? And we both would say yes, but clearly God picked us and put us together for a purpose. And so it's just a marriage made in heaven. But, we talk about, Jim, you brought up that we won't be married in heaven. We have too many memories to think that when we get to heaven, we're not going to remember those things.
Mhm.
So we will have some kind of relationship. I don't begin to understand what that really will be, but we won't forget that what all we've been through together and how we've helped one another in ministry through the years. So I'm looking forward to that. But, any questions you guys have on that?
I have a comment. I remember, I don't know why I was in Texas, but when you were in seminary, you lived in the Fort Worth area, I believe, right?
Correct.
I think I was in Dallas, and of course I had called you, and we decided to get together, and you took me home to your apartment. And
Right.
when I left there that night, I was a little concerned for your safety.
Okay.
You remember where you lived?
Yeah.
I was a little concerned for you. It looked like a dangerous place.
Well, some of the seminary housing was nice. Some was not so nice. The seminary is in south part of Fort Worth. At the time when it was built, a long, long time ago, it was out in the country, and then the city swallowed it up, and the area was not a good area. So as long as you stayed on campus, you were relatively safe, but you didn't leave campus. Of course, Mary had to go out in the real world every day and work.
Yeah.
Where I stayed on seminary, I worked for the landscaping department, so I was kind of bubble there. Of course, we had 2 small children, so she was the one that really kept all the home fires burning while I got through seminary. And like I say, she's been perfect ministry mate. I don't want to just say just ministry. Obviously, the perfect mate for me in our marriage. Always supportive, always encouraging. I think one of you guys said that she's able to give me her opinion about things, and sometimes you listen to other people's opinions and you say okay, but when your wife says something, you best pay attention.
Yep.
So
Nice.
No, I've watched your marriage over the years. It is everything you say.
so and that's the Lord. He certainly has blessed us. So couple of minutes left. One of the things I wanted to do to kind of tie all this together is there any, I don't know, let you guys decide, like I'm using antidote or some kind of lesson that you learned through life that might be helpful to anybody that might be tuning in, and something that you gleaned from over the years. And if you like, I'll go at one because I was thinking about this, so I have one ready. I remember, I think we were still in seminary. Like I said, we didn't have any money. We had credit cards, but they were pretty well maxed out. And I think it was her birthday. Her birthday's coming up in March. And I remember, we were just having a discussion one night, and she says, "You know what? We don't have it. We don't want to run up the credit cards anymore. Just, you don't need to get me anything for my birthday." And I said, "Okay."
Wrong answer.
So I didn't. Yeah. And, on her birthday, I mean, stupid me, I could have made a card, I could have went out and picked some flowers out of the field. I could have done something, but she said, no, so I didn't. So anybody who's watching this Men on Narrow Road, if you have need to learn lessons, learn from a guy that's pretty stupid sometimes. When your wife says you don't have to get me anything, don't fall for that trap. Okay?
That's like, do I look fat in this dress?
Yeah.
I already, the only anecdote I would have would be the one I already mentioned when I was speaking, and that is to the women. Uh, don't expect your husband, don't push your husband to make more money than he can.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Mine would be before making any major decision, consult your wife if you have a godly woman, and listen to her. I wish I made a few mistakes, and I wish I would have listened to her because I consulted her, but I still made my decision, and I wish I would have listened to her. There are minor consequences, but there's a consistency there that makes me pretty much, convinces me that there's something there.
I can confirm that, Joe, because in the mid 90s, I was interviewed by a larger church that, the finances and everything would have been much better. And I really felt like that's where we're going to go. But my wife and her prayer life got a hard no from God.
Mhm.
And when she explained that she had a hard no, that was clear enough to me that if we don't get a yes, we both don't have a yes, then it is a no. And then once I gave into that, because honestly, I was probably looking at the position and, the better income and those kind of things instead of listening to God. Once I agreed that this was not where God was leading, then I had a clear no too. So she prevented us from making a mistake.
I remember one time, I guess I can share this very quickly, that I was working for a large company just north of Baltimore in Hunt Valley, and the future looked very, very good. And there was opportunities for growth and promotions and a whole lot more money. So I decided that it was time for us to move a little bit closer because I was driving about an hour and 15 minutes to get to work each way. So I was going to buy a piece of property and build a home. And I figured she would go for that, a brand new home, bigger, larger home, and move closer to the Baltimore area. And I kind of went through halfway with that plan without really consulting her. And this is, mind you, after I probably made a few minor mistakes along the way that I should have listened to her because then as things progressed, then I realized that she was right. And in this situation here, I let it go for quite a long way. Finally, I said to her, we're going to buy this 3.5 acre piece of property right on the border between Pennsylvania and Maryland and build this house. I had the plans and everything. And I looked at her. I said, "You don't want to move, do you?" And she said, I would follow you and whatever you decide, I'll be there for you. But if you ask me plainly, do I want to move? And she says, do I want to leave my church, which is the church that we go to now? Would I want to leave my friends? Would I want to leave everything that's familiar and comfortable to me uh, because of this? She says, personally, no. So right then and there, I stopped pursuing this venture, and I eventually realized that that drive and it couldn't really keep it going on long term, and I found another job closer to home, and I listened to her, and I think she loved me for it because I did it for her. For personally, I would have been up and gone. So and honestly, I never really had a should haves and could haves. I just love her, and I think it's just as important for her to be happy as it is important for me to be happy, no matter whether she was going to go ahead and, no doubt, she would have made it work, but it would have been to her sacrifice, and I didn't want to sacrifice anything that she had. That was important to me. So maybe all the mistakes that I made along the way came down to one major decision that I got right.
Yo, you're not batting zero anyway.
No, I'm good. I just, I got excited about the opportunities. So,
Well, clearly all of us married up.
Yes.
oh, good point.
Okay?
Hey,
I
hey,
agree
guys,
there.
I have to leave. I have someone expecting my call. So
Okay.
keep talking and have a good time.
All right. Thank you, Jim. So you guys have anything else to add?
Hey, Barry,
It's like,
go
right.
ahead, Gino. Then I want to say something after you go.
Well, if anybody's listening or looking at their own marriage, basically I have 3 words, and you can apply them to marriage, you can apply them to God, you can apply them to just about anything. First one is commitment. Commit to something. Commit to God. Commit to your marriage. Commit to your spouse. And that leads into honesty and trust. Once you make a commitment, honor that commitment with total honesty and total trust. Be honest and trusting the Lord and your spouse. Be totally honest with your spouse and trust your spouse. And you can never go wrong.
So when she says, "Does this dress make me look fat?"
I'll say I'll have a drink.
Okay, all right. Joe, well, you had something?
Just real quick. I think, one of the things that I've been missing with our sessions, which I look forward to every Monday, is that we haven't been closing in prayer. And I thought maybe, Barry, if you could do the honors of.
Yeah, I will do that. We want to remember Wayne and the family, and the passing of his father-in-law. So, and I'm sure there's other things on our hearts. God, the wonderful thing about prayer is God already knows. Sometimes in prayer we think like, well, we have to tell God what's going on, but He already knows, and his response is always the same. I'm not surprised by this, and I've got this. So that should give us a calm and a peace that knowing that He's there. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for the testimonies tonight of these 4 marriages, and Lord, how your hand has provided. Lord, each of us have had different paths, but Lord, there's a common in all of our testimonies that you are Lord of our marriages. And Lord, while we know that marriages can make it without you, Lord, they're never what you design them to be without you. And Lord, when we invite you in and make you Lord of our marriage, as Gino said, the triangle where you connect us together and you're an integral part of everything that happens, Lord, it not just makes our marriage successful, it makes it thrive. Lord, I thank you that you have given us godly women, ones that not only have a desire to put up with us, but Lord, have a passion for you. And Lord, it just makes it so much easier to walk down that road together, knowing that you've got a soulmate that will be with you hand in hand, side by side, and praying together and working together for your glory. But Lord, we pray your blessings tonight upon all of our families and all of our marriages. Pray that we will be a witness to those around us. We know that perhaps there'll be someone looking at this, maybe a young couple, just wondering where this might go. Maybe there are some words of counsel, some words of advice that they might glean from this. Lord, use it for your glory, that others might know that a marriage is great, especially when it has Christ as its center. Lord, bless our night and give us a good week of serving you. In Jesus' name, amen.